Femme Parler podcast, where we are unpacking opinions and changing destinations. I am your host, Sherley Altador, where each week we will chat about how to rise strong out of all types of obstacles that come with relationships. Through personal life experiences and discussions ranging from infidelity, trust, forgiveness, sex, heartbreak, self-love, and so much more. I am passionate and obsessed to provide guidance to every woman to create a better life. Let's dive in, pull up a seat, make sure you're cozy, and get ready to be challenged and encouraged while you learn. With me, your virtual girlfriend. Welcome back to Femme Parler podcast. Today we have a special guest with us, Isabella Prida. She is an actress, host, humanitarian, and cancer survivor. She grew up in Miami, Florida, and has been living in Los Angeles, California. Her newest venture is the Isabella Prida podcast, a comedic variety talk show for millennials. She has had her share of failed relationships, but is now happily in love with the man she met at a gas station during the pandemic. Welcome, Isabella. How are you?
I'm excellent, and I feel like I need to steal that intro for my daily morning routine because that was epic. I loved it, and I'm totally here for it.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. We are so glad to have you on the show. Now, of course, we all are curious to know during the pandemic when you are supposed to be home, my dear, cuddled up. Okay, you went to go get gas. I get it. I guess you had to go to the grocery store. How did you and this man meet?
Okay, so I will give you the medium length version of this story. Basically, I was quarantining with my mom down in Mexico City because that's where she lives, that's where she's from. It was a little tough living with your parent after you haven't lived with them for a while. So it got to a point where I was like, it's either going to be my mom or COVID that takes me out. So let me remove myself from this situation. So I went back to Los Angeles where I had my apartment that I was paying for every month that I wasn't there. I hated it, wanted to give it up, but I really didn't want to go back to Mexico City. So I told myself, listen, you can stay here as long as you do something for yourself. And, working in entertainment at the time, everything was shut down. Whatever. Turns out I had really been wanting to try surfing. I had lived in California for like 11 years and I had only been in the water one time. So I said, doing outdoor activities was allowed at the time during quarantine. So I figured, okay, surfing, first step, I guess, buy a wetsuit, right? Before you even buy a board. I buy it from some like random dude on OfferUp in the middle of, not in the middle of nowhere, but being a LA girl, like when you go out of your little neighborhood, you're like a fish out of water. So I buy this wetsuit. I'm on my way to the beach, but I stopped at a gas station. And the best part was that I didn't even really need gas, but I'm a sucker for good prices. And in that neighborhood, it was fairly cheap. So I said, okay, let me fill it up here. And I see this like two guys, super cute, one more than the other, and they had jet skis. And I found that interesting because I grew up in Miami with jet skis. And when I see that their skis were the same brand that I had, I was like, oh my God. So I just started saying, oh, that's so crazy. I used to have Sea-Doos myself. And they were like, what? He said, the jet skis, like it's weird seeing them in California. And then this guy goes, well, where do you live? And I said, downtown. He goes, well, that's why you don't see any jet skis. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Well, all right. So then I said, are you part of like a club or something? He goes, no, we just ride the jet skis. And I was like, how do I redeem myself? I sound like an idiot, but I was like, well, growing up in Miami, I was part of a jet ski club, and now that I'm out here and I usually surf out in Malibu, I don't really see jet skis. Me having bought my wetsuit 10 minutes prior, okay? And then he was like, oh, really? Oh, okay. No, we just go out, blah, blah, blah. And he asked me if I ever go down to Marina Del Rey, which is another neighborhood. And I said, no, because I don't have a reason to. And that was me trying to give it back to him. Like, you want to be, sassy, I'll be sassy back. And he was like, oh, okay, well, take down my number. Now you have a reason to go. And I was like, sis, I was so floored. Mind you, I haven't spoken to probably anyone in 3 months, especially a cute guy. And at the moment, I thought he was Arabic. I thought I heard him speaking Arabic. Turns out it was Hebrew, which I'm still okay with. He still looks a little suspicious at airports, and that's totally my vibe. My like checklist is if they don't raise flags at the airport, I don't want them. So he checked off the box and I took his number down. We said we would have a date that weekend. It's like getting down to the time and I started freaking out because of COVID. Because I was like, I feel like we should treat COVID like an STD. You want to ask people like, have you been tested? Have you been safe? Like, can I see you? But then I was just, chickening out. So I told him, hey, I'm like kind of scared. Do you mind if we just video chat instead? And he goes, yeah, of course. We ended up video chatting for 8 hours. I can't even tell you the amount of things we had in common, the great conversation we had. Well, right when I met him at the gas station, I instantly told everyone, like all my friends, all like five of them, that I met the love of my life, including my mom. I told her this. So half of them were like, "Oh, who is it this week?" Because yes, I am notorious for like, saying I met the love of my life several times. But it is now when I realize the importance of your words because I've never actually meant that before. It's just kind of part of my silly personality. But now I
Mhm.
was like, no, guys, like I really mean it this time I met him. So after we FaceTime, I was like, I am so sure that I met the man of my absolute dream. We met the next day and we've been dating for almost 8 months now. So that's
Ah,
how I met the love of my
congratulations.
life.
She's met and when is the big day?
You know what? I don't even want to think about it too much because I don't know when COVID is going to end, but trust me, it is. I'm sure that something's going to happen. So I'm just going to keep my hopes up.
Well, congratulations,
Thank
congratulations. It's
you.
so interesting as you just like step and go get gas and you find the love of your life.
It's honestly all about timing because I was going to leave LA. I was literally just supposed to pack up my things in my apartment and go back to Mexico. I don't know who I thought I was trying to pick up surfing, but I said, let me just do it. And, I guess I haven't looked up statistics, but how long does an average person spend at a gas station? What is that, like 2 or 3 minutes? And then it was in the middle of nowhere, like a gas station that I've never been to. So I don't know. I think things really do happen for a reason, and if anything, that's made me really believe that.
It is. That was a blessing for you. It was that connection. It was supposed to happen.
It
So two
was.
things that you said, I have a question for you. Number one is how long had you had been single? And also, I listened to your podcast and you said I used to make a list about I think you said maybe pros and cons. And I wanted you to tell our listeners how beneficial has this list been for you in your dating world?
Okay, so I swear by this list. I very much refer to like when you go to the grocery store and you don't have a list, you more or less know what you want, right? You know you need the
Hmm.
essentials, this and that, obvious. But when you go there with the list of the things that you know you're gonna have the munchies for, you're gonna be satisfied when you get everything and you come home. So when you're dating, you know the basics. You want someone that probably holds the door open for you, calls you beautiful, whatever. But what are the actual things that you know you will be satisfied with at the end of the day when you come home? So I was dating someone casually, and I say casually because I'm a millennial. For some reason, we refuse to put labels on things. And I was casually dating him for maybe 5 months prior to the pandemic. And we quote unquote broke up like a month before the pandemic started. So I went maybe 4 months being single. And I'm a serial dater. So I'll have a relationship that'll last like about a year and a half, 2 years. Then I'm single for a few months. I get my act together. I put some gloss on my face and I get back out there. I find a boyfriend, 1 or 2 years later. And then it's kind of been a thing maybe like 4 or 5 times by now. And I'm only
Hmm.
26, so you can imagine. You can imagine how wild my days are when I'm single. So yes, this list is something that I think everyone, men and women should have because after every I don't know if I would say failed relationships. I mean, they didn't work out in the long run, but I learned something each time. Like after each guy, I say, okay, guy number one had this, and that I love, and I really wish I could combine it with the good qualities from guy number two. And I look at my list and I'm just like, okay, guy number two does have that, but guess what? Guy number two also has the deal breaker that you hated from guy number one. So, you kind of just start being your own, I don't know, matchmaker, and you just start you start being your own voice of reason, which is really hard to do.
I like the list idea of writing it down instead of just thinking it in your head, reminding yourself, like, okay, remember these characteristics you didn't like, instead of just jotting it down mentally, which you're going to
Mhm.
forget. And when you're in that moment, you don't think about that stuff. But when you have that list to look down at, that's definitely helpful. So I do like that
Yeah.
idea.
You don't think about it because when you start missing someone, for some reason, we forget all the bad things that happen. When we miss
Yes.
someone, we only think, "Oh my god, like, do you remember when he used to da da da?" "Yeah, sis, do you remember when he also used to manipulate you into doing this?" You know what I mean? So if you look at the list, you look at these, like, raw feelings that you have that you don't have to share with anyone. I think that's the best part. Nobody needs to know you have this list. Your man doesn't need to know. Nobody.
Okay. Now, it's interesting that you say millennial, even though we're 11 years apart, because I am 37, you're
Okay.
26, and we're
Uh-huh.
both millennials.
Yeah.
I made the mark. What I think if you're born in 82 or after, we're all millennials. I almost fell to the floor
Oh.
when I found out I was a millennial because people are always talking about millennials, and I
Yeah.
come to find out I'm one myself at 37 years old. I'm a
Yeah.
millennial. I fall right within that category.
Do
But I
you feel
wanted
like a millennial?
You know what? I don't. I
Yeah.
Yes and no. I don't feel like a millennial. I didn't get my first cell phone until I was 17, and it was that old flip phone. Like
Yeah.
hard, like it was ugly, and text was awful. Text
Yeah.
wasn't as pretty and as colorful as it is right now. You had no
Mhm.
emojis, no nothing. It was
Mhm.
like literally
I know you
uh
had to press, like, the three times to get to the letter, and
Yes,
yeah, that's so
that
funny.
barbaric looking screen. So I want to say, okay, I guess I understand why I'm a millennial, but I'm really like at the beginning of the millennial
Yeah.
stage.
I feel that, I feel that.
So I wanted to ask you a question of how is dating different for you? Okay, I know you're 26, but how has dating changed from 20-year-old Isabella to now 26-year-old Isabella, who has found the love of her life?
I would say dating for me is a little bit the same because I was kind of dating to find my partner for life, but the way that I thought has been different, and I really think social media has had a huge influence on me because whenever even if I'm in love, but it's mostly when I'm during my breakup points, I go
Hmm.
online and I just start following all these, like, motivational, like, pages and these, like, badass women quotes and this and that on Pinterest. So I feel like because I choose to follow all the positive stuff during, either my good or bad times because it really helps me going, but I also see all of these pages for, like, anti-commitment and anti this and, "Oh, yeah, when a guy does that, curve him, drop him, like, we don't need that, da da da,"
Yes.
da," and it's kind of like it starts to influence you, and you maybe don't even really wanna think that way, but because you're constantly seeing it on your feed and seeing all these videos, you do start to act that way. It's an actual influence, whether it comes from the internet or from a person you know. So, I think millennials have this very, negative way of, like, just cutting people out. If someone says something wrong, like, "Oh, yeah, well, I'm not talking to you anymore," like, "Out of my life," and then, the second you post that on social media, like, "I dropped him." "Yes, girl, I'm so happy," and it's like, "Wait, why are we hyping them up? We don't even know if they deserved it. Like, did you think this through?" So, I think just as millennials, we have so much information available to us, which is great. It's just up to each one of us to decide how you'll use that information, which makes it really freaking hard.
No, I do agree, Isabella, because I do feel, especially social media, because growing up, I didn't have social media.
Mhm,
Facebook came out in 2004.
mhm,
So I didn't grow up with Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter.
mhm.
I didn't grow up with any of that. So I do agree with you where social media will make you think that way. And do you also feel that women, especially, we think that way more than men? And
Oh,
we're
yeah.
quick to cut someone off. And if social media tells you, oh, you can't do this or you don't know your self worth,
Mhm.
not even giving somebody a chance at all, even if it could have been the smallest thing that they did. So, yes,
Mhm.
I will agree because it
Yeah,
will change your thinking.
yeah, and the whole thing with, like, female empowerment nowadays, which obviously I'm all for, I just think it's almost like women don't even really need valid reasons anymore to do what they want. we like to use the excuse, yeah, well, I'm a woman, I'm badass, I could do it. And it's like,
Exactly.
no one's saying we can't do it right now, like, internally myself, I'm like, "But I'm not gonna treat you a certain way," or I'm like, I don't know, the what's going on in my head right now is thinking about the whole justification for women sleeping with a lot of men, and that's okay, whereas, I mean, that's not okay, whereas when men sleep with a lot of women, that's okay, and so now we're like, "Oh, sis, if you wanna go around and be a slut, like, that's your thing, go ahead and do it, all power to you." But then it's also like, do you even want that, or are you kinda doing it because 'cause we're hyping you up? And it's a lot of us don't wanna do that, we just feel like now that we can, we're gonna go and do it, but no. So then sometimes I've even felt bad for settling down because 'cause I'm like, I'm in my 20s, I make my own income, I'm my own independent woman, and I want a
Mhm.
partner, and I feel like a lot of times I see on social media that now's not the time, you should be living your life, you're independent. Oh, you're independent and you're dating someone? Like, how dare you? You don't need him, da 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 da, and it's like, "Wait, what? No, but I don't need him, but I want him." Like, is it bad?
No, you're right. Because as a millennial, we do have that thinking. You think you're such a freaking badass. No
Yeah.
one needs to tell you anything.
You
And
think you're
I'm going to do,
untouchable.
yeah, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And no man is going to dictate how I move, when I move, or how quick I
Mhm.
move. But
And
at the
that's
end of the day,
toxic.
it is toxic. And let's be honest, I am in a relationship, you are in a relationship. I still want my king in my life.
Mhm.
I think it's women trying to find that good, healthy balance.
Mhm.
Still, you still want to be independent. You still want to work. You still want to do all the independent
But
stuff.
there's nothing wrong with having, and I like to call them partners. It's so funny because I don't like saying the word boyfriend, even though I'm only 26, I feel like I'm too old to say boyfriend, but if I say partner with my haircut, everyone assumes it's like a girlfriend, which, like, I'm not I'm not, like, mad, but it's just inaccurate. I'm like, "No, I don't have a girlfriend, it's my boyfriend, but I'm too old for this." Anyways, what was my point? Oh, yeah,
Y-
that I still want my partner in my life, and just because I have my own life with or without him, that doesn't mean that I just shouldn't have him. And you know what? I used to, for a brief moment, suffered from, what was the term that I used? Obviously selective feminism, that's huge in my life, but also, I was just, like, toxically independent. It was like, I would go out to dinner with a guy who just he suggested he wanted to take me to this restaurant that he had heard all these good things about, and I said, "Okay, yeah, but I'm choosing the time." And it was like, "Oh, sure, you can choose the time, Isabella." I was like, "Okay, good. So, I'm really busy this week, so how about," but it was, like, from this, like, aggressive point of view that I was coming from because I didn't wanna leave any room for a guy to tell me what time we were having dinner. And in my opinion, that's just so wrong. The guy wants to take you out, he wants to spend time with you. If he wants to set the it's not like he's saying, "If you don't come at 6 PM, I'm not taking you." It's just like, I didn't leave any room for that. And, like, when I talk about selective feminism, okay, let's say I decide what time we're eating, I approve on the location, we sit down, we have a dinner. Obviously, I'm gonna have him pay. Like, Isabella pay for her dinner? Are you kidding me? No,
Ah.
and so I recognize that I'm very selective with when I decide to be a quote unquote feminist because I'm like, "Oh, of course I'm having this dinner after my long day at work that I got myself, but I'm not paying for my dinner." And so it's very catch-22 with me. I've gotta say I'm not the easiest.
But it's not a bad thing too, because the right person, rather it's man or woman, whatever your preference is, whoever you're dating, is
Mhm.
going to know how to correctly handle it, in my opinion. It's
Yes.
just we as women, and I'm talking because that same attitude you have,
Yeah.
Isabella, even still to this day, 20 years later, I still have the same attitude. And I have to say, Shirley, tone it down. Tone
Tone it down, yes.
it down.
Sometimes
Tone
I
it
catch
down.
myself. I know. Oh my god, when my boyfriend now, he when we first did that video chat for 8 hours, he probably told me like 4 or 5 times how beautiful I was. After the second time, I told him, "Okay, can you tell me something I don't already know?" And he still talks about it. "Remember when I told you you were beautiful and you didn't wanna hear it?" I was like, "Babe, I mean, once or twice I get it, but after that, yeah, I know. Like, you think this comes, like, for free? Like, I no. I know I'm beautiful because 'cause I'm working on it. Tell me something, because you're talking for a while. Am I not intelligent? Am I not interested? Like, So,
He was so
the
hypnotized by what he was seeing.
he was, it's adorable.
Okay, so now I want to ask you, what is the worst date that you've ever been on and why?
I didn't do a lot of dates because I was so afraid of them. I felt like if I would go out, my favorite thing to do pre-pandemic was going to bars around Hollywood because I've
Mm-hmm.
got to say we have a really nice bar scene. And I already knew before I even left my house, what do you want? Do you want like a fun night out or do you want to find the love of your life? And I never left room for like, oh, casually meeting someone at the store and having them take me out. But also, LA is not full of those types of guys. I'm sorry and I hate to say it. We're not a town known for our gentlemen, so it's not like I really had much of a choice. But I guess if I can say one of the worst dates that I did end up going on was this guy who was a friend of a friend. He picked me up. We're getting out of the car and he goes, do you have enough room? And I said, yeah, of course. I thought he was kidding because I obviously had enough room to get out of the car. He goes, oh, okay, it's because like I can see how big your hips are in that dress, and I just wasn't sure. And I was like, wait, like, oh, I thank you.
What?
And so I didn't understand. I'm like, was that shade? Was that just like him recognizing I have childbearing hips? I don't know. I'm like, okay, anyways. We walk into the restaurant, we sit down. Turns out they were playing like an old school movie in the background, How to Be a Millionaire with Marilyn Monroe. And so he starts FaceTiming his friend that set us up. And he goes, look, I'm here with Isabella and I'm playing her the movie that she needs to learn. She could learn a few tips if she wants to date me. And I was just like, oh, I realized that the comment at the beginning was his attitude and behavior. So he was just very, I don't know, what snobby, whatever. So I
That
was
is
like,
kind of
okay,
snobby. First of all, the hip
super
remark,
snobby. Yeah,
unnecessary.
so
And
unnecessary.
really, we're on a date. Can you put your
Yeah.
phone down?
Yeah. Oh, you know what? It's so funny because I didn't even think of that. I just thought, yeah, I mean, we're gonna like FaceTime our friend that set us up, but I didn't really go on dates, so I didn't really know. I guess I wouldn't FaceTime my mom and be like, look who's my date tonight. So very weird, super awkward. Definitely did not go any further with that one.
Okay, so my next question I have for you is what do you think about dating apps and meeting people online? Now, I guess dating apps and meeting people online is still my time too, even as a
Mhm.
millennial, because what? Match.com goes back very far.
Mhm.
So meeting people online is very old, but now you have Tinder. And what are some of the other ones?
So there's
What's Grinder?
Tinder, Grinders for gay men, I think.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
there's Bumble, Hinge, JDate or JSwipe. I don't know. There's something for like hillbillies. There's something for Christians. There's literally something for everyone. I'm all here for the diversity. My thought on them is kind of the same of when before I would even go out. You just have to know what you want before you go on the app. Because
Okay.
if you just want like a hookup, you most likely will use Tinder. I think that's what it's for. And you kind of just know, okay, I'm looking for a hookup. Obviously, you let it be known to the person you match with and are interested in. But it's hard when you just don't really know what you want. And then you surf the internet for other people that most likely will say they don't know what they want either. So then what happens? You have two people that are going with the flow but they don't even know where the flow is. And then they start dating, and then feelings get involved, and then both of them are still like, oh, we're not boyfriend girlfriend. Oh, of course not. Oh my god, no. 3 months later, 4, 5, 6 months later, yeah, sorry, I can't hang out tonight. I'm actually on a date. Wait, you're on a date? Yeah. Oh, well, you never said we were exclusive. So, and then it's just, you know, when you leave room for what's the word ambiguity, then you
Mm-hmm.
leave room for bullshit. I'm sorry, it's just the truth. Like, just know what you want, let it be known to that person. And that doesn't mean it's set in stone. You can start off by saying, hey, I'm kind of looking for a relationship. After a few dates, turns out you don't like them that way. And you just say, hey, you know what? Like, we can either, I don't know, keep it casual or we can just be friends, da da da. But if you don't know what you want, how is the other person going to know how to treat you?
You're right. You're right. Because now meeting people online, do like Match.com have an app?
I feel like they should by now because they're loaded. So I think I think they have to have an app.
Okay, because it's Tinder, because I've seen people use Tinder. I've never had Tinder. And you just watch the person and you're just swiping. Is there any information or is it just a picture?
So I was on Bumble for a bit and there's photos, and then you can put a little bio. I mean, I'm sure there's like a character
Oh,
maximum, and
okay.
a lot of people will say in their bio, hookups only, hookups only. And so it's like, okay, well, they just want the hookup. It's like they don't even wait for conversation. They're just already letting you know it's for hookups. But for those that want relationships, I think they put more like, I'm from here and I like to do this and blah blah blah. So I guess it's
Okay. Okay.
more
So that's what,
complicated.
so I see why you're like Tinder and all those, or know what you want, because a lot of it is you end up hooking up with the person. And that's why
Yeah,
a lot of my gay friends are be like, yeah, I found him on Tinder or Grinder. And I'm like,
yeah.
the heck?
Yeah. I've never understood that. I've literally never met someone from the internet because I am someone who's super social and I need that like spark. And I don't care how much conversation we have online or how hot you look in the photos. If we meet up and like you do something that I don't like, I don't know, like chew with your mouth open or like you don't know that you have a lot of boogers or something. Like I'm not into that. So I am not here for that. So I just need to meet them in person and then we'll go from there. Which is actually funny that I say that because I feel like I've said this before, but my boyfriend, if it were normal world, I probably would have met him at a bar. It probably would have been fun one or two times, and I probably wouldn't have even given him the time of day because my mind would have just been in work mode. When I'm in work mode, like no one's allowed to
Ah,
distract, and it would have been, "Do you wanna come to dinner?" No, I work," like, you know? So, it's super interesting that we met this way because 'cause I'm like, but then I started thinking, "What about all the other prospective husbands I met?" No, I'm just kidding. If I let others go, no, 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 definitely not. Oh my god, do you ever envision what your life would be like if you married the person you thought you wanted to marry?
I mean,
I'm like
let me tell you, Isabella, I think about my life now. If I wasn't with my partner now, I
Uh-huh.
think dating, I'm
Yeah.
stressed. I would hyperventilate. Same with you. I don't
Yeah,
want to date online
yeah,
because with me, I need the social interaction because I may not even like your smell. So now, if
exactly.
we end up meeting and you just have a
Mhm,
funny aroma you're getting off, not that you
mhm.
smell, but
Yeah,
everyone has their own scent. So I
yeah,
could go give you a hug and it's like, oh, no, no, no,
yes,
no. And then now I
yes.
have to find a way to entertain you for the rest of the freaking fucking night. And I don't even want to be with you. So
Mhm.
social interaction is very important to me. I don't think
Yeah,
I'm
it's
into
super
the app.
important. No, no,
Yes.
no. I'm not here for it. I think most of my friends, if not all of them, are on them, and I can't tell you how many of them end up getting hurt because they weren't clear from the beginning. And it's just like, if there's a time where people are clear, I can guarantee you it's when both parties say, I just want something casual. When I can guarantee you, neither party actually wants something casual. So I don't know why we feel like that's the only acceptable thing to say. I mean, I get it. You don't want to scare people off and be like, hey, nice to meet you. So listen, I'm looking for my husband. So if you don't, you know what I mean? Like, I get it, but you can be loose about it. Hey, I'm just kind of looking for someone I can spend more time with and just go to events with and my plus one. You don't have to say I'm looking for a boyfriend, but you can word it different. Women, we are grade A word changers. So,
Mm-hmm.
what is that word when you just change like synonym dictionaries? Whatever.
Oh, you mean when the words are similar?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like
Yeah.
we can just
Uh-huh.
twist
You're right.
words,
Cinnamon.
you
Yep.
know?
And
Yeah.
make it sound good. Now,
Yeah.
I have a question for you. Do you think there is a formula for millennials when it comes to dating?
I wouldn't I don't think there's a formula. I would just say, if you don't know yourself,
Mm-hmm.
everything about yourself, physical and emotional, mental, then you're not ready to date. Because how is someone else gonna make you happy if you don't even know how to make yourself happy? Like,
Exactly.
I know that I get super sassy and attitude when I'm hungry, and I know it sounds so silly, but, like, I try not to even be hungry around my friends because I know I'll be impossible, but I know that about myself, so when I start getting mad, And my boyfriend is like, babe, what is wrong? I'm like, nothing is wrong with me. And then like a minute later, I'm like, babe, I'm so hungry. He goes, why didn't you say that? Let me feed you. And I'm like, okay. But if I didn't even know that's why I was angry and he's asking me, what can I do? And it's just like, I don't know what you can do. Figure it out. Well, I don't, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like, that's obviously a very simple, poor example. But what I'm saying, you have to know what problems you have and how you fix them. Because when someone enters your life, they're going to try to fix problems for you. I mean, if they're like a good partner, I think that's what it is, teamwork. And
Hmm.
if you don't even know how to fix them, how are they going to know how to fix them, you know?
Exactly. That's why communication is important, being direct, never assuming your partner knows exactly what you want. So if
Never
little
assume.
attitude-ish Miss Isabella is hungry, she just needs to
Oh my
vocalize that.
god,
You know what,
I'm
honey?
so
I'm
bad.
getting a little attitude here. I'm a little hungry. Can we stop
Yeah.
and get something to eat? But we don't realize that because we're so caught up in the moment that we're
Mhm.
in. And you're
Mhm.
right. I wanted to say something when you said about knowing what you want. Do you think when millennials are dating, they should try to keep it more platonic instead of automatically running into romantic if they're looking for something serious?
I don't know. I've been in situations where I don't wanna say I was dating multiple people at the same time, but you kinda have this guy for events, and then you have this guy
I wonder if men,
and then
you know what? Men probably do the same.
oh my god, of course they do. They're even worse because they don't even know why they have multiple women, they just have them. I know
Yes.
why I have different guys in my Rolodex. I have one who's great at going to events with because 'cause they're social, whatever. I have one that's, like, great for just, going to the movies with because 'cause they're, like, movie geeks and stuff. I have my
Hmm.
foodie guy who, like, knows all the top restaurants, like, can get reservations everywhere. So I have my different guy for I had my different guy for all of them, but, when you kinda start seeing more than one at a time, it's like, "Oh, I think I really like him because he has a lot of what the other ones have." I don't know, it's kind of like a numbers game. How many good qualities do you have? And sometimes I won't notice that until I have the ones that I don't like their qualities. So it's like, instead of one at a time, it's like you just get a whole bucket of blueberries and you start eating whichever ones taste good, you know what I mean? Because if you buy one at a time, it's like, then you gotta go back to the store, and I don't even know what tangent I went on, but
No, it's okay.
definitely
I get what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying.
I don't encourage multiple partners at a time, but, it wouldn't be the worst way to go.
No, it's not. I think it's definitely okay to have multiple people that you're dating if you keep it
Mhm.
platonic. I don't
Yes,
have
and
and
honest, because the other
yes.
people should probably they don't need to know your whole business, but they should know, "Hey, you and I are not exclusive." Like, it's not a thing.
I'm seeing other people. I'm seeing other people. And I'm going to remind you of this because for a minute, I don't want you to think that I'm exclusive to you.
Mhm,
I
and
am
you know
seeing
what?
other people.
Quick story on that one. So that happened to me one time. I told this guy who I'd been seeing for a couple months. I super liked him, but I knew that I didn't want a relationship. I was going out of town and I said, "Hey, I'm going out of town. Just a heads up. Like,
Hmm.
if I see someone, whatever, I don't want you like if you see someone I'm with on like my social media, don't get freaked out, whatever." He was like, "Wait, what do you mean? We're not like exclusive?" And I said, "Oh my god, have you thought we've been exclusive these past 2 months?" And he was like, "Well, kind of." And I said, "Well, we never had this conversation." Turns out he was like, "Well, if I'm with a woman, she's like my woman, and I would love to be exclusive with you." Da da da.
Oh.
At the time, I was like, "Oh my god, he wants me to be his. How romantic! Of course, yes, I'll be your girlfriend." Da da da. In hindsight, I realized A, that is not the proper way to ask someone to be your girlfriend.
Hmm.
B, I didn't even want the relationship, but I thought it was so romantic how he wanted me to be his that I said yes. And when the relationship ended up failing, I realized I could kind of only blame myself because I didn't even want to be in it in the first place. So, how are you going to have fun at a party you didn't even want to go to? You
Exactly.
know?
So there was a little peer pressure attached to that. Where did you feel sorry about saying no?
I said yes, and I dated him for almost 2 years.
Oh,
And
you
so
did. Yeah. So I guess I'm sorry. I worded it wrong. Did you feel sorry to tell him no?
oh, no, I honestly just thought it was the most romantic thing ever because the guy right before that was, like, super in denial that we were a fairly serious casual dating couple. Like, we were together. Everyone knew us as together, but we didn't have the title. And so when we would go to events and stuff, if someone started talking to me, whether it was a man or woman, just someone striking up a conversation, my partner would kind of disappear because he goes, "No, like that's your thing. I don't want to get it." And I'm like, "No, but you're my date. We came to this together." "No,
Yes.
no, like no, we're not boyfriend girlfriend. It's weird. What if they ask da 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 da?" So I was like, "Okay, whatever you do you." So then the very next guy was someone who was like, "What do you mean? You're mine." I thought, "Oh my God, finally, a man who wants me to be his." But the
Okay.
reality was he didn't want Isabella to be his. He wanted the woman he was seeing to not see other men. You know what I
I
mean?
see.
So it's
I see.
very girl, I have done this so much
That's a good way to think about
psychoanalyzation,
it too. He didn't want
Yes,
Isabella. He
he
just
didn't
did
want
not, he
Isabella.
wanted the woman to be exclusive.
He verbatim said that when I date a woman, she's my woman. And because of the guy right before him was the complete opposite, he wouldn't even want to talk to me at our events. I'm like, oh my God, how romantic. He wants me. Of course I'll be your girlfriend. Like, no, no, no. I should have done that whole Miami trip differently.
Ah, so the one you're with now, has he met all the criteria off the pros
My God,
list?
he has met criteria that I didn't even know was on my list, but it's on my list. I can't even tell you all like the good stuff, but I would say the best part about him is that we're so good at communication, where
Mm-hmm.
even the times, you know what, we're still learning from each other. And the way I see this relationship different than my previous ones is if something like maybe I do something that he didn't like or vice versa, we're not mad at each other. We're not like, "Oh, really? You thought it was okay to just like call them?" And it's like, "Oh, is that kind of how you do things?" And it's like, "Well, yeah, usually." And it's like, "Oh, okay. I mean, I don't really prefer you do them that way, but I don't know. You do you." "Oh, no, I didn't know it bothered you, of course." And it's just, I mean, I know it sounds a little odd because I didn't give specifics, but just the overall communication, there's no judgment
Mm-hmm.
because instead of being mad, we're just like questioning, okay, so do you think you could maybe not do that next time? Or you should understand why that bothers me. And that's a big thing that I've learned because I've been pretty difficult in the past where if something bothers me, I just be like, you know what, I'll talk to you tomorrow because like I can't stand you right now. And then it's like, poor guy, well, what did I do? Oh, you didn't know? You're an idiot. Of course you should know. But then he doesn't know because I never told him. And then the next day I'm over
Exactly.
it and I don't want to talk about it anymore. Like I'm not talking like, "Ugh, over it. It's a new day." So then this poor guy does it again because he doesn't know. And so
Mm-hmm.
although, guys are in general pretty like dumb, so they should know most things, but
Girl, they
my
don't.
new they do
They don't. They don't. And
cry.
we
They don't.
assume that they'll get little
Yeah.
like little comments we make. No, I'm
Yes.
not hungry. That
Yes.
means yes, I am hungry.
It means I'm
You
hungry.
know, if I have a little bit of an attitude, you need to pay attention to
Oh,
that.
my boyfriend literally he says that he's gonna buy a fanny pack so he can walk around with treats. So if I ever give him attitude, he's just gonna throw like a Scooby snack at me or something. And like
Ah,
normally I would be mad because I'm like, what a mean thing to say. But I'm like, oh my God, he's trying to fix my problems. Yes, thank you so much. I am hungry. I wish I had my own bag of treats. Like, absolutely. So I would say communication is so key. But the important thing that I really think people should know is that you can't have good communication with everyone. It just doesn't exist.
mhm.
So sometimes we really, really try to get someone to understand us, and we think we're doing the best to our ability to communicate this. If they're not receptive, they are not receptive and they will not be receptive for the most part. I
Yes.
know that sounds like a very like harsh statement, but I'm a big believer in seeing someone for their reality rather than their potential. And as women, we focus so much on someone's potential because we know they have it in them. We know they can do well. We know they can get that job. We know that if they tried a little bit, they would be nicer. We know that if they put their minds to it, they would remember our favorite presents and stuff like that. Yes, they could do all of that. If they're not doing it with you by now, it's because they don't want to do it with you by now.
Mhm.
So recognize the reality and just decide if you're going to accept it or walk away.
You're right. You're right. Because if the puzzle is going to fit in the beginning, you
Mhm.
will know. I mean,
Mhm.
I feel like when you're in a romantic relationship, it's very similar to a platonic friendship with like your girlfriend, because at the end of
Yes.
the day, how many people live in this world? A whole
Mhm.
bunch, and you are not going to connect with everybody. There are people, and I've said it all the time, that come into your lives for seasons, for just a general moment and a purpose. So at times, your romantic relationship, and as women, we always are trying to be Mrs. Fix It. Oh, he
Mhm.
has so much
Ugh,
potential.
yes.
I can see where he can go with this. Let me just give him a little bit, and I can work
Mhm.
with him, and I can see what I could do. No,
Mhm.
it's hard enough for us to change ourselves. Now I'm going to like put this burden on myself trying to change this individual if I realize that the puzzle's not fitting. But
Yes.
what we do is no, no, if I turn it this way, maybe it might be able to fit. Or if I do this, no, no, in the beginning, we need to pay attention. And it doesn't mean we need to be nasty about it. We
Mhm.
just need to pay attention to those cues and really hone in like, okay, I don't think this is working and maybe I need to step back and step away. But one thing you said is, even in the beginning of a relationship, communication is extremely,
Oh my gosh, it's
extremely
it's the most
important.
important thing, and I know it sounds so funny because that's what old people say when you ask them, "How have you been married for 92 years?" It's like, "Oh, we communicate so well," and it's just
Okay.
like, it's so true, and you know what is kind of the sucky part? People change for the people they want to change for, and
Yes.
that's something that I've been on both ends on. I've been the person that really wanted my partner to change, and then we break up, they date someone new, and I see that they start taking the trip that I wanted to go on. They start dressing the way that I wanted to dress them like, you know? And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Look at me. You wouldn't change for this? Are you serious?" But it's the universe just letting me know that that person was not meant to be for me. And then I've
Exactly.
been the person where like, "No, I don't do that. No, I won't go there. I won't eat that." Then we break up, I date someone new, and I was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I'm here. I literally said I would never come here, but guess what? I am here and I'm having such a good time because of the person that I'm with." So once
Hmm.
again, it's the universe just like it's not like I'm intentionally gonna change for someone, but if there's some tweaks that need to be made, they will be made for the people that you want to make them for. And then it makes it worth it because, like that movie with Jennifer Aniston and Vince Vaughn, I think it was, where she's like yelling at him about the dishes and he goes, "Fine, I'll do the dishes." And she goes, "That's not the point. I want you to want to do the dishes." And he's like, "Why would anyone want to do dishes?" And so trust me, you will find a man who will genuinely want to do the dishes just because it makes you happy and it'll feel so much better.
But you made a good point. People change for who they want to change for.
A
I'm a
hundred
strong
percent.
believer too. And you know how I hate the word I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm
Mhm.
busy, I'm busy. People use that so loosely, and you're
Mhm.
busy for who you don't want to make time for.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because out of 24 hours out of the day, okay, let's say you're sleeping for 8, what you're telling me, you can't give me any time out of your day. Like, you're that packed that you cannot
Mhm.
give me any time at all. So yeah, people do change for who they want.
Let me
So
just tell you something. Sorry.
no, no, you're
Um,
fine.
One time my boyfriend's phone died and it was like around 3 p.m. and we were out and about and I said, "Okay, do you want to go home first and charge your phone?" He goes, "Are you kidding me?" And he looked at me. He goes, "I have everything I need right here. What do I need my phone for?"
Oh.
And it's little things like that that I feel like he truly means. And it's you for the women out there and men too, where you maybe feel like you're not going to find someone that sees in you what you see in yourself. I'm telling you, you probably will, and I hope that whatever higher power you believe in, they are watching over you and they've got this. Like, I'm a strong
Mm-hmm.
believer in you know what, I don't even really know what I believe in. I don't know if it's stars or energies or God or whatever, but I believe in something much, much bigger than me that when I look back at the things that I thought and I swore were working out for me, relationships, careers, apartments, whatever, I know now that I am so happy they didn't work out because now I have this. Can you imagine if I was staying with this guy just to stay with him and I didn't meet the love of my life now? Like,
Exactly.
everything happens for a reason.
It all happens for a reason. So what is one thing out of all the things you've given us that you want to give as a takeaway for the millennials who are dating right now, or casually dating, single, looking? What do you want to tell them?
I would just say be honest with people, but be honest with yourself first. because I think a lot of what we've talked about is things that we want, but
Mhm,
giving in a relationship is just as important. And you have to be honest with yourself and to others on what you're able to give at this moment.
mhm.
And once you figure that out, things will flow so much better. If you realize you can give your time or, presence, whatever your love language is, it makes things so much easier. You avoid a lot of like miscommunication, and it all boils down to honesty and how you feel. And if you're honest with yourself, you say, listen, I kind of really do want a boyfriend, but I don't really think like I have the time for it right now. Good. Then don't even try right now. If you think you don't have the time, then don't try right now.
Exactly. All right. So as we end today's episode, Isabella, I want to thank you so much for being a guest.
Yeah.
And just to recap on some of the things that she said as dating as a millennial, number one, there is no formula to dating. Communication is key, as Isabella said. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Don't assume your partner knows what you want or, just because you're having a bad day that your partner's supposed to pick up on those cues. Communicate with your partner. Watch how you talk to your partner and your delivery because all that affects them as well. And if you find the right person, they're going to know how to adapt and work around the attitude. But be mindful of yourself and your actions and what you're saying because anybody's going to get tired of something. You give someone enough attitude, they're going to get sick and tired of it. So always be mindful of how you're communicating with your partner, both verbally and physically, because that's important. Remember, there's no formula. As she also said, be honest upfront in your relationship. And, when it comes to the dating apps and meeting people online, I guess it all depends on who you are. As Isabella and I have said, dating apps, meeting people online is not for us. As for me, I may not like the way you smell. So I need that social interaction. Isabella, too, she wants that social interaction. Like we need it. So apps, dating online, that's not necessarily for us. But if that's your thing, just make the best of it. Communicate upfront, as we always say. And as you know, I'm key for that because communication is important. If you're looking for something casual, say that. If you are looking for something serious, say it. No one's going to be a mind reader. Okay. Now, with me, I thought, if you keep it platonic in the beginning, instead of immediately being romantic up front, that also will let somebody know what direction you're kind of take, especially if you want something serious. Don't just jump in the bed with somebody. Maybe hold off a little bit longer. Get to know the person before you do all that extra romantic stuff. But of course, we're going to end this podcast today. I am going to leave all the information of where you can find Isabella and her awesome podcast that she has. Definitely, you want to take a listen to it. And as always, when we always end, love yourself, voice yourself, be yourself. And thank you till the next episode, guys. Bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in to Fanpale Podcast. If you want to continue the conversation or share your takeaways, I want to hear from you. Head on over to the website or join our Facebook community and comment your favorite part of the show or share your thoughts. I want to hear what you have to say. Don't forget to rate and subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Chat with you next week.